Tell me, what is acting really? And can it be taught?
I don't think that I'm here to teach acting to anybody. Acting is believing and being convinced in a circumstance that somebody is in, and to believe that circumstance is happening to you.
I think there's too much emphasis on beauty when you're performing as an actor.
When it comes to lead parts, yes, there is a lot of emphasis on beauty. Eventually, more than looks, I think it is presence that matters. Honestly, as a casting director, I know many actors who are very good but don't have the presence, and it's hard to watch them for more than 5 minutes. It is because they don't.
Ranveer Singh, Vicky Kaushal, Alia Bhatt, Kriti Senan, Sanya Malhotra, Ahaan Panday. The list is long. He's an acting coach whose work mostly happens behind the scenes. He is A for acting. He's A for Atul Mongia. Hello, sir.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you. A for Atul Mongia. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry if I went slightly overboard with my intro.
No, not at all.
Okay, I'm gonna ask with a very simple question. Tell me, what is acting really? And can it be taught?
Yeah, I think it's a very, very good question to start with, actually. Acting is believing and being convinced in a circumstance that somebody is in, and to believe that circumstance is happening to you, and to truthfully reach that space, that more or less is acting. So if you have to, like, the shortest definition that I can give for acting is truth and conviction. So you have to be present there truthfully, and you have to be extremely convinced that what is happening in this moment is happening to you. So to do that by being present in that moment with your co-actor, that's acting.
And when someone who is truly good at acting, what is one quality that really strikes you about them?
I don't think there's any one quality that you can say, but I think good actors are good listeners. Good actors are people who have a deep imagination and a sense of conviction. I think without conviction, nobody can act. So the deeper you can go in your conviction, the deeper you can experience those, experience that in your mind, experience that in your emotions, and then bring it out. So yeah, conviction is definitely something. Empathy is something. Listening is something. And also it helps if you are not inhibited. So there are all kinds of actors. There are certain actors who are slightly inhibited, but they are able to go deeper. But then there are actors who are completely uninhibited, and then they suit certain other parts better. But an ideal actor should be able to do both.
So when you work with actors, at what point do you enter the process? Like once they have the script and they actually come to you asking about maybe seeking for a perspective or like a different approach, what is the process over there?
Yeah, I mean, process is pretty simple. I'm either approached by the producer or the director or the actor. So sometimes the director feels, okay, I have an actor, but the kind of role that we're doing, this actor has never done something like this. So maybe it'll help if we have an expert. Sometimes it happens because of that reason. Sometimes it'll happen because the actor himself or herself feels that, okay, I am doing this and I would like to explore it before I reach the set. So I don't think that I'm here to teach acting to anybody, because anybody who's doing regular work, they know what acting is. I'm somewhere facilitating the process for them to explore this character. So with me, we will do certain exercises. We'll talk a lot. Actually, we do a lot of talking about the person who's sitting in front of me, which is the actor, and also about the character that they're going to play, and what lens and what perspective are they looking at it from, and maybe provide them certain exercises which makes them go deeper into that introspection of who this person is. So a lot of the preparation is, so to say, intellectual in terms of approaching the character from the psychology of it. And then a lot of it is about putting yourself in that psychology, and me probably providing situations or improvisations or exercises, calling co-actors with whom they get to explore different scenarios as that character. So the whole idea is that you experiment before you go on set. Because we can talk about it a lot, we can think about it a lot, but until and unless we put it in our body, we speak it in our voice, we don't know what that character is. So once you start exploring it, so a workshop before a film is just a space for the actor to explore. And I don't think that we ever lock anything at the end of the day. I'll probably say, okay, this is good, and maybe this is a good starting point for you. Usually, what used to happen earlier was that an actor used to figure all of this out in the first 5 days of shoot or first 7 days of shoot. But now we are saying, why even waste those 5-7 days? Why not find what you want to do so that you can even nail the 5-7 days? So instead of exploring in the first 7 days, you find the character or the ballpark of the character before you step on set. So you also go with feeling more confident. And in my experience, no matter how big an actor is or how many films they've done, every actor is nervous about starting a new character. And it's a good sign that they are nervous. They're not taking their talent or their stardom for granted. They want to do a good job at it, which is also when I step in calming the nerves. And I think a large part of my job is also that, to make everybody feel that, yeah, we've got this and we can do this and you've got this. So that also is part of the job somewhere. It's part therapy, part exploration. But yeah, not really teaching acting, just exploring the character is what I'll call it. You asked me, can acting be taught?
Yeah. Because acting is feeling, right? And how to feel is not something that you can tell anyone.
No, you can't tell anyone how to feel, but you can put people in situations, in exercises, which helps them reach their deepest potential. So maybe I, as an actor, thought, okay, this is where I have to reach as an actor. But when you come to someone, maybe me, somebody else, then we are telling you, no, there is a space that's deeper than this. There is a truth that you've not yet scratched. There is more that you can delve into. And then we also, over the years, have exercises to make them reach there. So yeah, you're not teaching acting per se. Of course, we can tell you, okay, that is performative and that's maybe not acting. That's your reference of so-called bad cinema, and then you're just mimicking that, and maybe that's not acting. So sometimes you can tell actors that what you're doing is not truthful enough yet. So there are certain places in which you can help an actor to let them identify what truthful acting is. So in that sense, yes, you can teach, not really teach, but guide them or facilitate them to reach. So it's all about everybody reaching their truth and their depth. And that's where somebody like me comes in the picture. I'm pushing you to reach a deeper truth, and I'm pushing you to go to spaces that you've never gone before. So yeah, not really teaching acting, just
facilitating that process.
Facilitating the process.
And you just used two words, truthful acting. Now that's such an oxymoron, right? So what are the exercises that you just spoke about? What are these exercises? How does it actually enhances or enables an actor to feel the character?
I can't talk about what exercises exactly we do, but
so it differs.
Sorry, yeah, it differs. See, so one of the ways in which we work is that we don't have अच्छा अब सब लोग आए हैं सबको एक ही चीज कराओ. That's not how we work. Even when I do a group workshop, see, what we're talking about right now is when I'm working with just one actor or two actors or four actors because they've been cast for a film. But a large part of the training that we do is with people who sign up, who are newcomers or have done some work. So even in a group workshop, it's never about everybody doing the same thing. It's about being very specific to what that one person's need is and where that person is getting stuck in reaching their potential. So a lot of the time, our job as the facilitator is to identify where the person is getting stuck. And I think that's the biggest job. Because until I know why and where you're getting stuck, and I cannot help you. So if there are 12 people in my batch, then I need to know that for every person in the batch of 12, that why is person A getting stuck, why is C getting stuck, why is F getting stuck, and then you have to work on all of them individually, which is why every single day we spend, like even for a batch of 10, I end up doing an 8-hour workshop. So I'm practically spending 45 minutes per person per day in that, say, a 9-10 day workshop. So by the end of it, we are hopefully able to identify, and not just me telling them this is what you need to do, but actually letting them only identify the issue by asking them the right questions. So a lot of the work that we do is about individually, where is it that I am stuck and not reaching my potential. And truthful acting is not an oxymoron at all. It's become an oxymoron because performative acting is a genre of acting in itself, where the more dramatic you are. And I don't have anything against dramatic acting. I just have a problem when that is not supported by something truthful inside of you. So yeah, be as dramatic as you need to be as loud as you need to be, as the character requires. But that loudness needs to come because that loudness is existing in your soul and in your energy, and you can't contain it. And hence, you need to go that loud. If it is not supported with that truth inside, and if it's just a craft of making your voice louder, that's when it'll feel fake, or that's when it'll not be organic or truthful.
Mm-hmm. Now, there is this segment of movies in our kind of cinema. It's basically playing for the gallery. It's a massy mainstream entertainers. So that acting is definitely different from, say, the naturalistic way of acting. So when an actor comes to you who is doing a project which is like a massy entertainer, is there a process even there in that kind of acting? And
Yes.
how different is that process from, say, regular acting?
Yes, it is. I mean, a lot of times with the film you're doing is a fantastical genre, and maybe it is a period drama, or it is something that requires the actor or the character is larger than life, and then a stylized acting is required. So then we work accordingly. It's then even, but see, my point is, even when you're going stylized and loud or larger than life, there are ways to expand your body, there are ways to expand your mind, there are ways to expand your imagination, and do it in a way that you do it with conviction and truth. My problem comes when that is being done without the conviction and truth. That is where I differ with acting of that kind. So even when an actor comes to me, okay, this is the genre that I'm doing. For example, I don't know the name of the film, but just a few months back, I was working with Kunal Kapoor, and he's been cast in I think a Tamil film where he's playing a god, and a sun god or some kind of a god, and it's a villain character, but it's very larger than life, and he also himself is very huge. He's like 6'2" and big muscles, and he actually made the body for that part. So we worked a lot of animal things we worked on. We made him bigger than he already is. We made his voice stronger. We made him explore the emotion 5 times than what a normal human being would explore. So yeah, he was literally on the floor sweating and really pushing himself to reach that 5x of than normal acting. So yeah, there are times when we work with actors to really push them, because that's what the role demands.
Now, every actor has a different process and every character is different. So how does your process differ from, say, working with Ranveer Singh in Gully Boy versus working with Vicky Kaushal in Uri?
It all depends on the actor, I feel. And eventually there are 3 things that decide how the character is going to be. One is the script. The script se mera matlab hai the character that you're playing, and obviously your arc of the character. One is that. The other is the actor themselves. Who are they? What are their strengths? What are their weaknesses? And thirdly comes the director, because a lot of times when I'm doing these workshops, the directors are present in the room. Sometimes they're not, but many times they're also present. So when they're present, it becomes easier because you immediately get a yes from yes or no, if that's how I'm looking at. When they're not there, then you do a little bit of guesswork, and based on what has been told to you, you work with that. So the third is the director and their vision. So it's the character, the actor, and the vision. So my job is to somehow find an amalgamation of the 3. So there are times when the character on paper is written a certain way, but when I observe the actor, when I work with the actor, I'll call the director and say, okay, this is what you've written, but I think if it's not A but B, it'll actually help the character better, because that's this actor's strength. It could be something very simple. It is not affecting their story. It's not changing their script, but just a character specific small nuance. So if I observe these things, I share it with the director and I speak to them. And more often than not, I've seen directors are very open to making character level changes. So those kind of things happen all the time. So my job is to find an amalgamation for the three. Uh, I think one commonality of Ranveer in Gully Boy and Vicky in Uri is both are internal characters. That was one commonality in both parts. But even then, while both are internal, their angsts are very different. So you work on each character's angst very separately. That's where psychology becomes very important for every part that you play. Because actually Vicky and Ranveer both have a slightly outward personality, and they're very social and very expressive as people. But when they were playing these parts, they had to curb down on their expressiveness. So a lot of the work was done on that, how to contain and feel everything and not express and show everything. So a lot of the work was done on containment there, but very specific to what Vicky's character is feeling because of the death of his friend or the attack that happened and what it made him feel, and how he's building that and he has to be the leader also but not show it ever. And only when the time comes for action, that's when it'll all come out. But with Ranveer, it was all about, his character is all about feeling not good enough, feeling that he's small, feeling that he may not be able to make it because he doesn't believe in himself. So his character's journey is to find that belief in his arc. So both had very specific psychology. So the actors, when you discuss it with them, and once they crack the exact psychology of the part, then you're able to do it.
And has it ever happened that your idea of how actors should perform has come in odds with the director's vision?
Yes. For example, I did a workshop with Shiva Karthikeya for Amaran, and they had actually, the director Rajkumar, they had actually flown specifically from Chennai for 10 days, and he actually stayed in Bombay for 10 days to do just the workshop. And the work went really well. So I honestly, I didn't even know how big a star he is. Of course, I read about him and I knew he's very big. And but when I met that man, he's so humble that initially it almost feels like he's performing his humility, but then you realize that he's not. He's actually that person, and it was amazing to see that people like that exist. So it was lovely to work with him because he was so open and so receptive to everything that we did. And the director was also present in the latter half of the workshop, and everything we did, it just worked to the T and exactly how the director was also looking and finding. But towards the end, on the last day, we did one crying scene where I felt that he would not express this much, and the director felt no, he will express this much. So yeah, there was a disagreement, but at the end of the day, it does not matter what I feel. What matters is that what the director wants. So then my job is to make the crying happen in a certain way, in a way that he wants, but my job is to make it truthful and believable. So then I just spoke to Shiva Karthik, a small feedback on how we can do it to make the same thing a little more truthful. But that's it. So, I mean, there are disagreements, but disagreements should be there in creative work. Without that, we will not be able to reach the potential of wherever we want to reach. So every time there have been disagreements between me and a director, that's always been healthy and it's never been a problem. And yeah, I may disagree, but my job is to not enforce my vision. My job is to listen to the vision and enforce myself to it. So that's my job, because I'm a head of department. I'm not the director here, because I'm also a writer director. So I understand that very well, that when I'm doing a workshop, I can't wear my director's hat when I'm doing a workshop. I'm just a head of department doing my job and bringing to light somebody else's vision.
Mm-hmm. And when you got on board to work with a certain actor, do you actually watch everything that they have done so far?
No, not necessarily. Like for example, when I was working with Amaran, I didn't watch Shiva Karthikeya's work. For me, it is about who is coming on that day, and I want to have a first-hand experience of how they respond to what I do with them. Because, sometimes it's also not a good idea to watch somebody's work, I feel, because every actor is going to respond very differently to a particular style of filmmaking or a particular kind of direction, and I may judge an actor based on that, whereas that's what was asked of them, or that was the sur of the role or the film. So I prefer to have first-hand experience with actors. In fact, if I be very honest, I don't even watch the films that I work on. I don't do that because I feel my work is with that person in that moment. And the more I am with them person to person in physical proximity, and then I understand the energies much better, and I understand what that person needs much better. What is happening on celluloid, if it works, great. But I feel that if I'm just with the person, working with them, and not going to the other side, then I feel the work is better. That's just my personal way of doing things.
And hypothetically, if a person comes to you tomorrow and says that I want to be an actor, what kind of conversation would you have with that person?
No, I would just tell them that if you want to act, then act. That's it. I think practice acting. It's the only thing that makes anybody an actor. And if you're an absolute beginner, then maybe yes, you can train with somebody for maybe a month or 2 months or 3 months or 10 days, or just go to a place and learn something and see if this is for you, because we all have an idea of what we think acting is until we do it. So just experience it a few times and see if this is something that excites you, because after doing it, you'll understand whether this is for you or not. Because for most actors, once they do it, they just can't go back, So it's very hard for them to go back once they have tasted it, once they have experienced what it is to play another person. It's very hard to go back for a lot of people. And those are the ones who are then there for the long run.
As a casting director, as director, and as well as acting coach, you have probably seen a lot of auditions. So what is something in audition that you notice that probably other people miss out on?
I think, are you asking what is it that I'm looking for in an audition, or
Something that's very peculiar about that audition that other people fail to notice, perhaps?
I mean, this actually somebody else told me. I didn't realize this, but a lot of times when I see an audition, I understand what the person is going through in their life. So sometimes that happens a lot with me. Like if I watch an audition, and then it was when we were doing Mai, and Vaibhav from Anti-Casting was my casting director, and he showed me a test, and I saw the test and I asked him, is this person going through a very difficult time in their life? Because I feel something very difficult is happening with him. And the scene had nothing to do with what I said. So sometimes you do notice these things, which maybe not everybody can notice, that you see a person and you understand who they are at the very core, as a person, not just as an actor, but as a person. You sometimes see a person's core in an audition, because I feel acting makes you very naked. You understand a person's vulnerabilities, you understand their defenses, you understand what is lacking in them, you understand what governs them. A lot of these things you understand when you see a person perform.
And can a great audition change the role or character that's been written or imagined?
Yes, it can. Sometimes an actor comes along and their take is so different from whether the writer, the director, casting director, anybody had imagined. And they just do it in a way that sometimes a director goes back to the writer and says, listen, watch this. And I think we can actually do this. That poor person may not even get the part who's done that audition. But a lot of times after watching an audition, it can spark, it can add a spark. Especially this actually happens a lot with secondary and tertiary characters, because I think writers and directors still have a decent, strong hold on their primary characters. But a lot of times you don't think deep enough for a secondary or a tertiary character, because when you're writing, your secondary tertiaries are largely serving your primaries. Whereas an actor, when they comes and does the job, they're not there to serve the primary. They are there to give their own character life. So they will bring, that's why getting a great actor really helps, especially in your secondary tertiary parts, because then they bring a life that is serving that character and not the primary character. So yeah, a lot of times an actor comes and does things, and you go back and you actually change the script, or the line that they improvised in the audition, you think, oh, actually it's good, let me just add that line in my script. So these things happen, because see, even a good script is always a living organism. It's never a final solid block. A living organism will keep evolving as the process goes. So the directors or writers who say on their final draft, this is it and I'm not going to change it, are the ones who are kind of rigid. But a good director is always like, no, what we're doing is building an organism, and the organism will evolve at every stage of filmmaking. And that's what happens when a good actor comes in. You inculcate everything that they're doing into the script.
And as acting coach, you have worked with actors across generations. So what is the difference between an experienced actor and say like a newcomer? Like what kind of questions do they ask, and what is something that they are seeking from your expertise?
I mean, beginners have lots of questions. And what I've noticed is with youngsters that they've not even taken the first step, but they want answers that are far ahead of them. So I actually tell them to, that when you're in KG, don't ask PhD questions, just focus on what you're doing right now. But nowadays, everybody has the pressure to be great from month one, which is very stupid, which is very strange. I think we all need to put in the work. You put in your 10,000 hours and then talk about what do you know and what do you not know. So let's not jump the gun and go for perfection or want to be a master at things when we're learning them. So a lot of the questions that come are kind of positioned in that direction. And I, most of the times, do tell the people to not do that and to go easy on themselves and enjoy the process. Because if you don't enjoy it, you'll not be able to learn it. With experienced people, most of the times the questions are very specific to the character they're playing. I don't think, sometimes it is about acting also. I mean, sometimes they are feeling stuck in something that they're doing, or they went on set and they experienced something and they felt they could not reach it. So then they'll speak to me about that experience. So anything that they experienced on set and they felt they got stuck, either that will be very specific to that, or it'll be very specific to a character nuance that they want to explore or they want to go deeper into, and a discussion in that.
And do you think social media has put a lot of pressure on actors to bring their absolute best? Because now every performance, every expression is been dissected. So it's like you have to deliver your best. There is no scope for being ordinary.
So, everybody's speaking about this, and I'm not sure. I think this topic has become bigger than it is. Does social media help an actor? Yes. But जो इस बात का हवा बन गया है, वो ज़्यादा ही बड़ा बन गया है. Because I know many actors who are not that present on social media but are doing well as actors or in getting work. So there are people who are not on social media at all, but they're still doing well. Some of our stars are not on social media, but they're still doing well. So I think we are exaggerating. Yes, an issue does exist, that sometimes a person with certain number of followers can be given preference sometimes, but the contrary also exists, which is that sometimes when a director loves an actor, then they really go for, no, this is the person I want, and they don't even check whether they are on social media, whether they have followers. I don't think a director, when they're watching a take, they watch the take and then look at the social media page. They're not doing that. They don't give a damn about how many followers this person has. What they care about is, does that person deliver what I need from them? Maybe a producer may be concerned with, okay, ye to hai par follower kitne, but a director won't. So and a producer, if that is a concern, I think it's a very valid concern, because if you're making a film which is not being headlined by a big name, then you want some 7-8 names so that you can do a collab with 8 names and more people can come to your film when you release it. So that's also a very fair ask. I will not say that it's not a fair ask. But largely I've seen that this topic of social media dependence for work has become kind of bigger than it is.
Now, Sonam Kapoor had once famously or infamously said that when you are a good looking actor, it's when you are not very good looking, conventionally good looking actor, it's given that you are a better actor. So, do you think? I think there's too much emphasis on beauty when you're performing as an actor.
I mean, when it comes to lead parts, yes, there is a lot of emphasis on beauty. I think the notion that the person needs to be extremely watchable does exist, especially for, say, romance or certain kind of genres. But other than that, if it's not an out and out commercial film, I think there are all kinds of faces that can headline and are headlining cinema and films. Eventually, more than looks, I think it is presence that matters. Because there are certain people, when you watch them on screen, you can't take your eyes off them. And a lot of it is God-gifted. A lot of it is God-gifted. A lot of it is that you can build it and you can build your presence over time. But yeah, I think presence matters more than conventional good looks. Because when you have a good actor, you can't take your eyes off them. When you see an actor with good presence, you can't take your eyes off them. Because honestly, as a casting director, I know many actors who are very good but don't have the presence, and it's hard to watch them for more than 5 minutes. It is because they don't hold your attention. Like just recently, someone I know, an actor who's done some little bit of work, they send me a performance, something which has been done ages back, supposed to be a very classical dance number for cinema, and this girl did her own rendition and sent it to me. And when I watched it, I mean, she's doing it fine and she's good, she's pretty, but I can't watch it. As in, I'm not drawn to it. I mean, I can watch it, but I'm not drawn to it. I'm not captivated by it. And I think that comes from presence. When the original actress had done it, you were captivated. You could not take your eyes off. So presence matters a lot in cinema. And this is not, and I don't like to speak about presence to actors, because then every actor asks, do I have presence? And I don't want to give you that answer, whether you have presence or not. Firstly, I can't even decide whether you have presence or not. The camera decides whether you have the presence or not. So I cannot give you that answer. That's why I never speak about this to actors. But the fact is that some people, when you watch them in the audition, you cannot take your eyes off them. You just can't. And that's when you know that this person has presence.
And that's something you cannot taught.
No, obviously not taught. I think large part of it is just inherent in your being. But I do believe, because over the years, this question has been asked to me by actors also, and I've also wondered about this question, that is there a way to make your presence better? And I think I have a semblance of an answer to that. And I feel the more you believe in yourself, the stronger that belief keeps going up. Your presence starts becoming stronger, even on camera. So, and I've noticed it because I've been around for a long time. The actors, when they were starting out and didn't have that much belief, the presence was decent. But as they did good work, the confidence just got built and their belief in themselves became really strong. And 5 years later, you see that the presence has suddenly become much bigger. So, I mean, even if I, like a simple example, like you see Mr. Bachchan in a Go Goa Gone, and then you see him in, say, Kala Pani or whatever great films of the 70s he's done, you see the difference in the presence also. It's not just that the looks have become better. You see the presence has also come out, it's shining out even stronger. So yeah, I do believe that with time the presence can sometimes become stronger, but yeah, inherently it's there or not there.
So can you recall a moment when you watched someone on screen and thought, man, this person has got incredible presence?
Yeah, I mean, you feel it all the time. You feel it in auditions also. And sometimes when you see, like I said, when a person will have a good presence, you will not be able to take your eyes off them. We in fact, sometimes we watch someone in a test and we know, okay, as an actor, they're only 70% there, but the presence is strong. So if it's 70% there, you can work on the 30%. But presence is something that you can't work on. So sometimes you may give, especially I would say this applies largely to lead parts. I don't think this applies to a secondary or tertiary part. This presence I'm talking about, because then the film is on your shoulder, and if you're watchable, then I'm more likely to be with you on that journey in that story. I mean, I remember I was the casting director for Shor in the City. This is a really long time back, and we had tested Radhika Apte, and she had never acted in cinema before that. She was only doing theatre in Pune before that, largely Marathi theatre, I think. And I remember watching her, and it wasn't even a great first take, but even watching her on the camera behind, I did feel that this girl had something special. So you do see it, So I remember watching and saying, yeah, there's something about her. And then obviously she's a really good actor also. So I remember it then, and then I remember it some other times also. So yeah, but that was her first film. Yeah, it's like I think 2011 or 10 when we were auditioning.
And many actors have spoken about using personal anchors to get into character. Like Vidya Balan had said that she uses a certain perfume to associate with a certain character. Or Ranveer Singh has spoken about listening to music before the take. Do you think, how does that help an actor? And do you think that's a legit process?
I mean, there is no illegit process. I think whatever works for you and whatever helps you, one should do that. And I don't think
how does
anybody...
it help an actor?
I mean, for example, if I talk about music, it helps tremendously. Like a lot of times, when I speak to actors, I feel that when you're doing the character, you should make a playlist only for that character. Either it is a playlist of the songs that this character listens to, or it's a playlist of the songs that helps you go into the zone of this character. Because what happens is every time you go in the zone, you are also listening to the music. So now you have made an association. You know that famous Russian test of ringing the bell and the dog comes to eat food, but because now the food and sound association is there. So it does the same job. If day after day you're listening to the same music when you're in character or you're entering the character, then on set, maybe there are days when you're not in the zone and you're not finding an in, and all you need to do is play that song and it'll take you there, because you have trained yourself for the last 2 months to listening to the same song when it comes to a certain emotion that you need to enter. So music really helps. I mean, one job that music does is it helps you enter certain zones that you need to. The other thing it does is the moment you have earphones over here, nobody comes and talks to you. Or even if somebody comes and talks, you pretend you have not heard and you move on. So it's also a good way on certain days to avoid faffing around on set. Because there are days on set when an actor should not be interacting with others. There are certain days. Yeah, I'm not saying every day, but if you know certain days are important. Because at the end of the day, what is an actor's job? There are two worlds that exist on set. There's a world between action and cut. That's one world. And a world between cut and action. That's another world. The cut and action world is the world, the people making the story. And between action and cut is the story. The actor's job is to be in the story. The crew's job is to be outside the story and make sure that the story that is being made is made well. People like a director, DOP, some other creative people, their job is to be in both worlds, right? But the actor's job is to be only in the world between action and cut. So you have to be in that world, inside, in your mind, in your heart, in your being, in your energy, in your zone. And unless on certain days which are important, when I say important, that you know that you need to reach somewhere, so or stick to a certain zone, then you should not be speaking to others. And if others find that rude, that's okay. You are here to serve the job.
Now I understood the part how you enable actors to find characters. what happens when the character is so emotionally heavy that they need to detach themselves from the character? Like for example, Kriti Sanon and Mimi, how do they detach or like get out of that character? What's the process there?
I think they take a holiday, which they should. But yeah, I mean, see, that's a job. I mean, if you don't understand what the job is, then you've not understood what it takes. There are certain parts that stay with you. There are certain things that linger on for days on end. But that's the job, and I think part of the reason why an actor wants to do this because of the thrill of living somebody else. And the thrill of living somebody is not just on set between an action and cut. The thrill of living somebody else is also carrying it home to your hotel if it's an outdoor shoot and staying in it and then returning the next day.
And you have trained so many actors. Who do you think among all the actors you have worked with is best to train others? We have that, no, the most hoshiyar bacha in class.
You know, honestly, they are very different skill sets. Acting and training in acting are very different. You know, it's like asking a football coach go do a goal. They can't. You put them in a football field, they'll fall on the fourth step because the other players will be much faster. But what a coach can do, the players can't do. So I think they're very different skill sets. So it's very hard for me to right now say, oh, this person will be able to do it. Partly because I've never thought about this question. It's a very interesting question. And partly because they're extremely separate skill sets.
And as an acting coach, how do you refine your skills?
I think every time a script comes or an actor comes, it's different. So for me also, every film or every actor is like I'm doing it for the first time. You know, so for me, it's about, okay, who are you? Where are you coming from? What do you need? What is the script? What is the character? My job is to marry that. So I think my skill keeps getting updated because every time when I'm doing this, it's like doing it for the first time. At least that's how I like to see it.
And has there ever been a moment when a newbie, like a newcomer, taught you something?
So sorry to complete my answer. So because every time I do it, it's a new person. What has ended up happening is, I think I have learned whatever I have learned because the person who's been sitting in front of me. So anything that I may know today about acting or teaching acting is because the person sitting in front of me came with a certain set of challenges. And now my job was to circumvent those challenges and find a space and help them reach a space where they can, become the part. So every time I have had to force myself to think of new ways to reach this person. And I think that's how I have learned everything that I have learned.
And you started at a point when acting workshops were not really a norm in the industry. How different were things back then in industry?
I mean, they're very different. I mean, not just workshops, even casting was not very prevalent. Even casting has come about 25 years back. Now it's been around for a while. But even acting workshops, let's say about 15 years back, they were not so prevalent. Like I could tell you that maybe when I started, so I started doing workshops for, say, a film back in 2010, 11, around that time. And I think in the first 5 years, I may have done total 7-8 films. And now I can probably do 7-8 films in 2-3 months. So that's how much the need for it has picked up. So far more films have started recognizing an acting workshop as a necessity more than a luxury. And it is becoming more of a norm. I would still say not everybody is doing it, but maybe 1/3, I would say every third film or every third series is involving some kind of workshop for the actors. Yeah.
And you have been doing this for quite some time. Have you ever thought of becoming an actor yourself?
Honestly, no, because I'm more into writing, directing, and that has been my forte, but I'm very open to it. And yeah, maybe someday, I don't know. But I've not actively pursued it.
But just hypothetically, what kind of roles would you naturally gravitate to?
I don't know. People will definitely think of me as probably a therapist character, but I would like to believe that I can go. I can go deeper into many things. But that's up to, yeah, I don't know. I think that's more a question that a casting director can answer or a director can answer than I can.
May I ask you something controversial? You can disagree on this.
Yes, I
but
can.
do you think we have made acting too methodical? Because as they say that the most natural acting is the one that's just felt. But when you get too much into the process, do you think you are actually over intellectual in the whole process?
Yeah, I agree. I think anything that is confusing you, any method that is confusing you is not good for you. So whatever training or method that an actor is finding for themselves, it should simplify things. It should not complicate things. Just because one is going deeper does not mean that it has to be complicated. Sometimes it's just about identifying 1-2 things. Like even when somebody's come to work with me, sometimes we'll work for a week and we'll just identify 3 things. That's it in 7 days. And we'll be like, okay, if we just get these 3 things right, then yeah, you're going to approach this character very differently from whatever you've done before. So it's not about, okay, unless we've found 200 things, only then we have worked on the character. No, sometimes even a couple of things or 2-3 things are enough. So definitely any process that confuses an actor is not a good process. And you also have to see what is the actor's personality. Every actor who will come to you is going to be different. An actor will come who likes to discuss, who wants to go more intellectual or psychologically delve deeper into the part. So then you approach the part via that process with them. And then you'll find another actor who'll be like, no, I just want to feel it in my body. So we will not even get into too much discussion. Maybe the discussion part will be 10% and the exploring on the floor part will be 90%. So depending on the personality of the person and what kind of process suits them, then you adapt. And that's my job. My job is to not say, mera ye tarika hai. No, mera actually koi tarika nahi hai. ऑनेस्टली बता रहा हूँ, मैं इतने सालों से कर रहा हूँ, लोग मुझे पूछते हैं आपका मेथड क्या है, आपका प्रोसेस क्या है. मेरा कोई प्रोसेस ही नहीं है, मेरा कोई मेथड ही नहीं है. मेरा मेथड है मेरे सामने कौन बैठा है और मेरा प्रोसेस है कि आप कौन हो. दैट्स इट. दैट्स माई प्रोसेस. माई प्रोसेस इज हु आर यू. ओह, दिस इज हु यू आर, सो मे बी वी शुड डू दिस. ओह, दैट्स हु यू आर, मे बी वी शुड ट्राई दिस. इफ दैट्स हु यू आर, दिस इज हु यू आर. सो आई थिंक इट्स ऑल अबाउट देम. It's not about me or my process.
And as they say that life is the greatest acting teacher, what's something life has taught you recently?
पर मैं तो एक्टर नहीं हूँ ना. What has life taught me recently? I think life recently, I would say in the last couple of years, I would say a lot of my life I have been very internal, and I think I need to be more external and I need to express more. I need to be out there more and force myself to not always be here but also be there, and that is something that I've been working on. So yeah, hopefully I'll get better at it.
That's amazing. Well, on that note, thank you so much for taking your time, Atul sir.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Mayur.